Let's finish our FK rig for the legs by adding stretchy control, and then we'll also want to make sure we can control the feet. So remember, we made sure not to lock the position of our shin and ankle controls. The reason being is because we're going to be able to translate these and pull our flexi line, thus creating a really nice squash and stretch effect. So this is going to be, again, really exciting. Let's go ahead and get started by first making sure we unlock the length of the thighs and the shins. So let's go back to our FK thigh. And with it selected, we'll grab our bone tools. And we'll simply go ahead and scroll down until we find our object properties and turn off freeze length. Let's do the same thing for the FK shin. So when we start to pull the shin bone and the ankle, we'll start to get some stretchy behavior. Great. Let's do the same thing for the right side. We'll just go in and unlock the length of both the thigh and shin bones. Alright, now what we'll need to do is go in and grab the FK ankle bones. Let's go ahead and select those nubs. And we're going to want to freeze those down. So with both selected, we'll alt right click and choose Freeze Transform. Essentially what we're doing is using wire parameters to wire the position of our animation controls to the position of the bones that we'll want to pull. Alright, so we're ready to do that now. We'll go to our FK shin control, and then we'll want to wire its position into the position of our shin bone, and that will allow us to pull the thigh. So with our FK shin selected, we'll right click and choose wire parameters. That's going to be transform position 0 position X, and we'll tie that into our FK shin bones position 0 position X. We're making sure to tie this to the original shin and not to the new shin bone. Remember that new shin bone was only used to make sure that our shin controls orientation would be matched to the rest of this FK system. Alright, so we're just simply doing a direct link, so that's X to X, Y to Y, and Z to Z. So by the end of this, if we were to go ahead and close this out and start to move our control, we could see that we're now going to be able to pull that bone around. Yes, it's separating, but that is not a big deal at all, because if you can imagine the flexi line being connected, we're going to get some really nice pulling. So that's really exciting stuff. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the ankle, and then I'll pause the video and take care of the right side because we're using the exact same steps. Alright, so we'll go on, we'll grab our FK ankle, grab that control. Let's go ahead and right click and choose wire parameters, and that's going to be transform position 0 position X, and we'll tie that to our FK nub. So that's going to be transform position 0 X. And remember, we're linking X to X, Y to Y, and Z to Z. And then we don't want to forget to test this just to make sure everything is working properly, which it should, because everything has already been matched. So if we were to go ahead and take this control and start to pull it around, we will notice that the nub is now being pulled. So our goal then is to figure out how to get the rest of the foot here to follow. We'll most certainly get to that. We'll need to. Alright, so I'll pause the video and take care of the right side the same way. So now that we've finished setting up our stretchy control, we're now ready to work on controlling the feet. So we need to control not only the orientation of the feet, but the position as well. So again, we can go ahead and work with helpers. Let's go ahead and grab our create panel, and we'll create a point helper. I'll go ahead and take this helper, and let's Alt-A align this to the foot bone on the left side. Making sure we have orientation checked. Go ahead and choose OK. You can see that the size is matched with the current helper we have aligned to that same bone. So just go ahead and head over to the Modify panel and set the size to 3. Alright, great. So from there, we can go ahead and give this object a name. That's going to be PT_DRV_L underscore ankle, and then we'll add FK01. And let's make sure that this will be added to our hidden layer. Alright, great. So we can go ahead and take care of the right side the same way. Let's go ahead and clone this object. We'll rename it from here. It's going to be rankle FK01. And let's go ahead and align this now to our right side. Alright, beautiful. Now we don't want to freeze these objects. We'll go ahead and leave them as is. The orientation is just fine, so we can go ahead and orientation constraint to these helpers when it's time. Let's go ahead and take this helper that we have just created, and we'll go ahead and clone it again because we need a helper to control the foot bone. So we'll go ahead and choose Control V. Let's go ahead and rename it from here. That's PT DRVL foot FK. Alrighty. And we could also change its display, let's say, to a cross. From there, I'll go ahead and use Alt-A and align it to the foot bone. Alright, fantastic. So now we can go ahead and choose OK. Notice it's easy to select because we've changed the display of this object. Let's go ahead and clone it again and take care of the right side. Alrighty. So again, I'll just go ahead and use Alt-A to align this object to the foot bone there. And once this is good to go, we're going to want to take both of these objects and make sure that they'll be linked to our animation control. Alright, so let's go ahead and take care of that. We'll go ahead and take our first helper we made. Let's go ahead and make sure it's linked to that animation control. Now we can go ahead and take the foot helper and we could go ahead and link it to the original helper. Do the same thing on the right side. Again, we'll take the first helper here that's tied to the ankle, and let's go ahead and link to our animation control. We'll go ahead and grab the foot helper and let's go ahead and link that to the ankle helper. Beautiful. Remember, from time to time, just go ahead and press page up to make sure you have linked to the correct object. Alright, so once that's taken care of, we can actually go in and grab these foot helpers and go ahead and freeze their transforms. So I'll go ahead and Alt-right click and choose Freeze Transform. Alright, beautiful. So once that's been taken care of, what I'd like to do is go ahead and create custom attributes on our ankle control so we can go ahead and control our foot bend. The same way that we control it in IK mode, we need to have that same functionality in FK mode. So let's go ahead and do that. And it's really straightforward. We're basically using the same foot bend parameters. So to give you an idea of how this works, with the left control selected, I'll go ahead and Alt-right click to add our attribute holder. We'll name that attribute holder Extra Controls. Again, we've done these steps already. Alright, so from there, we'll press Alt-1 so we can go ahead and create our custom parameters. So the first one's going to be foot bend underscore roll. Remember, we decided on a range of -360 and +360. We're ready to go ahead and add this parameter. Alright, so let's go ahead and add foot bend swivel and then foot bend twist. And let's do the same thing for the right side. I'll pause the video. Okay, so once we have managed to create custom channels for both ankle control, and then we can work on setting up our constraints to finish up. Alright, so what we want to do is wire our roll, swivel, and twist into the same channels that we have wired them into for our FK foot. So the roll is going to be the Z-axis, the swivel, the Y-axis, and twist X. Let's go ahead and grab our ankle control. We'll right-click and choose Wire Parameters. It's going to be Modified Object, Extra Controls. Let's go ahead and find the foot bend roll. All right, now we'll go ahead and grab the foot helper for the FK system and tie the roll channel into our Zero Euler Z-axis. Remember, we'll need to use our deg2rad function. So that's deg2rad. And we'll go ahead and concatenate foot bend roll. Let's go ahead and copy deg2rad and then that first parentheses. Again, just to speed up the time it takes to create this function. And we'll go ahead and choose connect. I'll minimize the wire parameter dialog. And we'll go ahead and test this out. All right, so we're controlling the roll axis. Let's do the same thing for the swivel and twist. And then let's also take care of the left ankle. I'll pause the video again. Okay, so all channels have now been wired. We want to go ahead and test these out just to make sure they're working properly. All right, let's go ahead and do some constraining work now. So we'll want to go ahead and take our ankle here. We'll need to make sure that it is position constrained to our FK helper. And we also want to make sure that the ankle bone is orientation constrained. Now remember, we have this helper here that was used to correct the orientation of the ankle bone, so we can get some really clean twisting. So this is what we want to position constrain. All right, so let's go ahead and make sure that that object is selected. That's PTDRV L ankle. We'll go ahead and Alt right click, and we'll grab our position constraint. And let's now tie that to our FK helper for the ankle. So now we should have two weights. And we know how to set these weights up when we're ready to wire our parameters. We've done this already. All right, so let's go ahead and now make sure that the ankle bone is orientation constrained to that same helper. So we'll go ahead and Alt right click, grab the orientation constraint, and tie that to our FK ankle helper. We'll now go ahead and take our FK foot bone and make sure that's orientation constrained to our FK helper. Great. We should notice that we have two weights. Let's go ahead and take a look. Just go to the rotate list. Oh, I'm actually needing to select the bone object, not the helper. And there we have it. So there's our second weight. Great, let's go ahead and do the same thing on the right side. All right, so we'll go in. We'll grab the ankle's helper first. Again, the object that's used to clean up the local rotation of the ankle bone. And with that selected, we'll Alt right click and grab our position constraint and tie that to our FK ankle helper. Now we can grab the ankle bone and orientation constraint to that same helper. We can now go in and take the FK helper and make sure that that will control the FK bone object. So let's go ahead and grab the bone, Alt right click and grab the orientation constraint and tie that to our helper. Beautiful. So now it's just a matter of wiring parameters, and then we'll want to test all of this out. So to do this, we just need to go in and find our IK and FK system to switch this, and we know that that's tied to our center of gravity. So with that selected, we'll go ahead and press Alt 5, and let's load up the center of gravity on the left-hand side. We'll go ahead and choose Refresh. Let's go ahead and expand the inside, get to Modified Object, Extra Controls, Custom Attributes, and here we have it, the IK leg channel. So let's go ahead and select that, and now we can go in and tie in our orientation constraint weights. So let's go ahead and start with the helper that's used to lock down the position of the ankle. With that selected, we'll go ahead and refresh and load that in. We'll get to Transform, Position, Position Constraint. There's weight 0 and weight 1. So we'll go ahead and select weight 0, and we know that that's a direct connection. So we'll go ahead and take care of that. And then we know for weight 1 here, we'll need to add 1 minus and then the parameter. And now we're ready to connect. And that's going to be the process for the others. So we know that when we get to the ankle bone itself, when we refresh this to load it in, we'll go ahead and find Transform, Rotation. Here's the orientation constraint. Remember, the first one is going to be a direct connection. And the second one, we'll go ahead and add 1 minus. Great. Alright, so that takes care of that. We don't want to forget about our foot bone, so let's go ahead and load that in next. And then once this is done, that's going to be it for the left foot, and the right foot is going to be the same. Alright, so let's go ahead and find our orientation constraint. Do a direct connection for the first weight, and for the second weight here, we'll go ahead and add 1 minus L leg IK. Beautiful. So let's say we test this out. If we were to grab the center of gravity control and take a look at our modify panel, right now we're in IK mode. So that means is if we try to take the FK ankle and start moving that around, there's going to be no control at all. However, if we were to go back to our center of gravity and switch this to FK, so we'll go ahead and turn off our IK button. Now when we grab the ankle control, you should notice that the foot is going to fall. Of course I grabbed the IK control object. Let's grab the FK ankle, and there we go. I was like, what's going on? Alright, let's go ahead and see what happens when we start to translate this object. Notice the ankle now separates. Beautiful. So again, when we tie in our flexi line, this is going to look wonderful. Let's go ahead and grab the shin control and take a look. Everything's working great. We should be really excited. Let's go ahead and go back to our FK ankle control and start to move our foot bend roll. Take a look, we're getting our foot bend. How exciting is that? Alright, so what I'll do is leave the right side up to you. Again, it's the exact same steps. And in the following lesson, we'll talk about how we will manage the visibility of these IK-FK controls.